Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Russell here, and the Finance Department of Canada has just released information about a new type of account that will be released in 2023 that will help you to buy your first home in Canada, and if you follow the right steps, you can save up to $10,000 that you would have otherwise had to pay to the government in taxes. So in today's video, we're going to go over exactly what this new account is, all of the details about the account, and how you can use it properly to actually save that money, because again, if this isn't used properly, it doesn't really do all that much, but don't worry, we're going to talk about all of that in today's video. But before we do, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I recently found out that only 60% of the people who watch these videos are actually subscribed to the channel, so if you're not yet subscribed, make sure to do so to keep on supporting Canadian content just like this. All right, let's get into the details. This new account is called the Tax-Free First Home Savings Account, and it was announced back in April of 2022 when the newest budget was released, but now the Finance Department has actually released the details about how this is actually going to work. And if you're planning on purchasing a home in the next 15 years, it can save you quite a lot of money because it sort of takes attributes of these other accounts that have existed for a long time. It's part TFSA and part RRSP. Now, each of these types of accounts have different ways to make you money, and the tax-free first home savings account kind of bashes them together to take the best parts of each and actually apply it to this account. The reason TFSAs are so powerful is because when you invest with a TFSA account or tax-free savings account, any of your investments that grow inside of that, normally when you have to sell investments, you have to pay something called capital gains. The government will want to take a part of your investment growth when you sell that investment, but if it's inside of a TFSA, you don't have to do that, and that applies to this tax-free first home savings account as well. Now, the positive part about an RRSP is that when you add money to your registered retirement savings plan, you can sort of take that income that you put into the RRSP and tell the government, hey, I actually didn't make that income when it comes time to pay income taxes. So if you contribute $4,000 to an RRSP on your income tax, it looks like you made $4,000 less and you don't have to pay tax on that $4,000 difference that you would have otherwise had to pay. So the idea is that it saves you money when you contribute to it because you don't have to pay taxes on it. Then you let that money grow in whatever investments are inside of this account. And then by the time you want to buy a house, you can take those investments out, sell them, not pay tax on the growth of your investments, and use that money as your down payment. Now, there are a couple other details of this account. First of all, you have to be 18 years old and you have to be a Canadian resident to be able to use this account. And the other important thing to note that makes this different from a TFSA and an RRSP is that it can only last for 15 years. So lasts 15 years. We'll get into what happens after those 15 years in a little bit. So let's do a quick example to show how this would work. If you want to purchase a home in the next 15 years and you want to do so using the tax-free first home savings account, you can contribute money to that account. You can actually contribute $8,000 per year to a maximum of $40,000 in total. So there is a yearly contribution limit and a max total lifetime contribution limit, yearly $8K, total contribution $40,000. So immediately as you contribute that $40,000 over time, you're going to be saving quite a lot of money. Let's say you have a 13% tax rate. Remember, you're not going to get taxed on this $40,000 of income over time. So if you save that tax, that's actually saving you $5,200 over the course of contributing that $40,000. Once that money's actually inside of your account, you can use it to invest in different things like stocks, bonds, or maybe an index ETF, which is like a basket of a bunch of stocks. So it gives you the average of what all of those investments have done. Let's say that you've made sort of 6% per year, relatively average return on your money over time. And that has resulted in the amount of money in the account actually going up rather substantially in value. By the time your 15 years is up, you'd have right around $90,000 in that account. Now, if you were just investing this money traditionally and you were to sell those investments to actually take that money and use it for a down payment on the home, you'd have to pay capital gains tax on the amount that your investments have grown. So you originally put in 40, now you have 90, that's $50,000 in growth that you would be taxed on. Now, if you're at that 13% tax bracket, you'd be taxed on half of the growth of your investments. So $50,000 $100,000 growth, you'd be taxed on $25,000 of that. At that 13% tax bracket, you'd have to pay $3,250 in that growth tax, which remember is called capital gains tax. So that's another savings that you're getting with this account. So then when you sell those investments and you don't get taxed on them, you can take that $90,000, none of it goes to the government, and you can use that as the down payment on the home that you want to purchase. But you'll remember that I mentioned that there is a 15-year limit on this account, and you might also be wondering what happens if I make all these investments in this account and then I don't end up purchasing a home with that money. Well, you'll actually find out that both of those sort of circumstances result in a similar outcome. Let's get into that a little bit. So if you reach that 15-year limit, or you just end up not using that money to purchase a home, well, your tax-free first-time home buyer savings account, man, it's such a long name, that will actually get converted into a traditional RRSP. So converted into RRSP, which actually isn't the best thing if you're trying to be absolutely tax optimal to save the most money and make sure the government gets the least. The reason this is a bad thing is because it loses the tax-free savings account, the TFSA that we talked about before. It loses those positive properties wherein you can take the money out and you don't have to pay capital gains tax on it, and it doesn't get treated as income, whereas traditionally with an RRSP, if you take money out of that account, you have to add it back onto your income for the year. So let's say that you've made that $90,000 and you're wanting now to pull that money out of your RRSP that your home buyer's account got converted into. Well, you'd actually have to add $90,000 to your income that you will then be taxed on at whatever your tax rate is. So you essentially lose all of the properties that we talked about before that are so good, right? The $5,200 savings on contributions that you sort of deducted from your income when you actually put it in the account. Well, you're going to be paying for that when you take the money out of the traditional RRSP, and the $30,250 in capital gains savings. Well, the capital gains that you made, the investment growth that you got, well, that's kind of included in that $90,000 that you're now going to be taxed on. So all of a sudden, these positive benefits, when you reach the end of those 15 years, well, they no longer exist for you. So the ideal use of this is that you sort of contribute $8,000 in those first 4 years that the account's open, and then over the next 11, before you get to 15 years, whenever you're ready to buy a home, you can use that money tax-free, but you don't want to wait till after that 15 years because then you get all the RRSP sort of traditional tax. Now, you might be wondering, hey, Russ, when can I actually use this? Well, we're not entirely sure when this is going to hit the market or actually come into existence, although the Department of Finance, which just sort of released this press conference here a few days ago, says that the government expects, here I'll zoom in for you, the government expects that Canadians will be able to open and contribute to an FHSA, First Home Savings Account, at some point in 2023. No matter when this happens in 2023, Canadians would be allowed to contribute the full $8,000 annual limit in that year. However, we don't really know for sure if it's actually going to be in 2023, because in order for them to bring this new FHSA, First Home Savings Account, and make it exist, they have to pass the legislation, change the laws, and get that passed through the House of Commons, right? Which, as we all know, can take quite a while, especially if other parties want to make some changes to these ideas. So if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to be keeping you posted as to when you can, as soon as possible, contribute to this account if it's something that you're interested in doing. And I'm curious, what do you think of this account? Do you think that that sort of realistic $90,000 amount is going to be even enough in 15 years to pay for a down payment on a home? Or do you think that this is a positive move in the right direction from the Canadian government? Let me know down in the comment section, and ask any questions that you have down there. I read every single one, and I'll try to get back to as many as I possibly can. But with all that said, thanks so much for watching, everybody. I really hope this video helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time.